So it wasn't supposed to be a super difficult, mind-boggling question. As long as you were open-minded about it. Take a look. The triangle says it's 90 degrees and it's 30 degrees as one of the corners, okay? So you can actually say, that is the triangle that we're dealing with. Do you also notice that I did not draw a perfectly isosceles triangle like this, okay? It's not like that. Obviously, 30 is smaller than 60, and so the corresponding side should also be matching. Do you remember when we first talked about trigonometry? I was giving you an example with the circle, and as I went up the circle from my start point, the height began to change, began to increase as I increased the angle. That makes sense? In the same way, 30 should have a shorter height, and 60 should have a much larger, length side, okay? In this case, a base. So the question says, what is the relationship between, I'm going to call this S for the shortest side, and L for the longest side. And the reason I specifically talk about this as the longest side is because it's common knowledge. It's a hypotenuse. So, half mark or even 1 mark if you're able to at least communicate this is the triangle I'm dealing with. And the two lengths that I want to compare is this short length and that hypotenuse. From there, the question of where do I go is up to you. If you're trying to relate two sides together, because of the way I delivered trigonometry in the first place, I was hoping that you would catch the relationship of short side to long side is sort of like opposite to hypotenuse. Remember, who cares if I say opposite or hypotenuse? Who cares if I say short to long? SOH CAH TOA is a relationship between two sides. So when you saw the question asking you to relate two sides, the idea of SOH CAH TOA should have popped out. Here is where I was hoping people would go. Sine of 30 is opposite over hypotenuse, which happens to be the shortest side to the longest side. Make sense? Everyone with me? And what's sine of 30? If you plugged it into the calculator, the shortest side to the longest side is going to be
0.
So what does that mean? I don't care what the shortest side is. I don't care what the longest side is. But if I were to place them as a ratio or a relationship, you will always find that the longest side is twice the shortest. Or the shortest side to the longest side will always give me 1 over 2. It could be 5 over 10. Shortest side is 5, and the hypotenuse has to be 10. If this was 100, then 200. Opposite side is 100, the hypotenuse has to be 200. And that's the relationship between shortest and longest side. And that was it. This was your answer. To show that sine 30 equals half. Right? But it's difficult for you to get that if you simply memorized SOH CAH TOA without understanding what it actually means. SOH CAH TOA is just a relationship of two sides. Concerns, questions, anything like that? Some people actually went the distance and did sine law. They're like, well, sine 30 to the shortest side is sine 90 to the longest side. And then they found that this was going to be a difference of a half, or sorry, a ratio of half. Yes?
That's what I did, but you gave me no marks.
No marks?
Yeah, 0.
Was it because you gave me an arbitrary number?
I'll just show you after.
Okay, show me after. Because if you did something like that, that means you knew that 30 was going to be the shortest
Exactly.
response to the third side. If you simply gave me an example and you were like, well, if this is a 5, SOH CAH TOA says that hypotenuse is a 10, right? Because I plugged it in. If opposite was 5, I do the algebra, hypotenuse has to be 10. You gave me a very specific example. You didn't give me a relationship between the two sides. So I couldn't reward you marks for that. It didn't show me that you were actually thinking about it, you were just regurgitating the textbook. So it's a case-by-case scenario, so let me see what you've done, and we can adjust that. Any questions about that particular one? Okay.